And welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. Let's go ahead and get right into things here. And let's have a look at the status of what's going on in the tracking station. Let's see, we have Lander 1B in orbit. We have another Lander 1B splashed down. I should really go ahead and end that flight. So let's go ahead and take care of that right now, because it's just splashed down with Bill Kerman on the other side of the world over there. So we'll go ahead and end the flight. Head back to the tracking station. Okay, we have a heavy crap orbiting Kerbin, and honestly, I think we need to go ahead and bring these flights that are in flight, just go ahead and bring them down and kind of clean up what's out here. So let's go ahead and switch to the heavy crap. I believe that's Jebediah flying that one. We'll go ahead and bring all of these flights down. Yes, that is Jebediah. All right, let's have a look here on the high side of an orbit. We're pretty much above Kerbal Space Center at the moment, so let's just go ahead and not induce a doggone spin. Instead, swing around retrograde, and we'll just go ahead and do a deorbit burn and bring this thing down. Let's see. Oh yeah, this one actually, I think, no, yeah, it's got RCS thrusters on it. How about that? Might actually be a little easier to get it lined up. Alright, let's just bring up the nav ball so I can actually use the engines. And we'll just deorbit this thing. Keep it lined up. Don't particularly need a mountain of thrust for this. We just gotta cancel our orbit, cancel all our horizontal velocity. And I'm going to stay lined up with retrograde so that the deorbit becomes a straight line going straight down. Let's up the throttle a little bit here. Up it a little bit more. Okay, now we're wide open. What's going on here? Well, craptacular. It's out of fuel. Alright. Well, it is going to land. One way or the other, it's going down. It's just not going to come down straight into Kerbal Space Center like I had hoped. Alright. And we'll go ahead and turn the SAS off, and we'll just accelerate time. And we'll bring this sucker down. Okay, we're coming down that way. Time acceleration will back off automatically. Alright. And here's where I will go ahead and stage this thing. And now we'll go ahead and deploy this oversized parachute, and I will speed up the video to landing. Alright, we have a good landing, so we will go ahead and end that flight as well. Back to the tracking station. Alright, there's lander 1B in orbit, so let's go ahead and bring that down. We have Bob Kerman in that one. Okay. Alright, we will go ahead and turn retrograde and do a deorbit burn here. Okay. And we burn. Bob seems to be terrified. Gee, Bob, thank you for the vote of confidence. I could have left you up here for another couple of weeks. Frankly, I was tempted. Okay, we have a negative periapsis. It's definitely coming down now. And since the periapsis is negative, that's really all we need. So go ahead and cut the engine, and we'll stage this sucker. And once again, I will speed up time till we get inside the atmosphere. And then I will deploy the chute and speed up the video, or perhaps just cut to the splashdown or whatever landing we have. Okay, this is one of those Houston, we have a problem moments, because the parachute will not deploy. This is not looking good for Bob Kerman. We're at 12,000 and descending fast, accelerating beyond 500 meters per second. Well, we're at 400. It's actually slowing down, but parachute has definitely not deployed. Looks to me like Bob's going to hit the ground pretty fast. Sorry about that, Bob. that sucker will not deploy. You're slowing down, but I don't think it's going to be enough. We'll start the clone vets right away. Ooh, that had to hurt. Okay, and that flight, we'll have to find out what's going on with the technicians and find out just exactly why it is. I ended the flight. Oh, for crying out loud. Okay, I guess I'm going to have to exit KSP and return in order to do something about this flight, so I'll be back. All right, we're back here. Let's check in on the tracking station. And all of a sudden, the Orbiter 1B is once again orbiting Kerbal. Or is that the Orbiter 1B debris? No, it isn't. Well, gee. All right. I'm just going to end the flight this time. Back to the tracking station. And now we'll go to the Heavy Crap Mark III, which is out here orbiting Minmus. We'll switch to that one and send them on a return trip back to Kerbal, excuse me. And this is the ship with RCS tanks and no RCS thrusters. Okay, let's see. Get this thing flipped around and... Oy, oy, oy. Note to self, don't ever build a ship without RCS thrusters. Especially something this frackin' huge. It takes forever to turn. Well, we're getting close to being in position. In a way, it's just as well that it's taking so long because we don't want to be aimed at Minmus when we do the burn. Come on, rotate around. That's better. Let's just go ahead and engage the engine at minimum throttle because the thrust vectoring might help. The SAS can do the rest of that job. Have a look at our orbit. Oh, that's no good. No good, no good, no good. Kerbal escape. Let's roll this sucker around and see if we can change the shape of this orbit. Okay, let's just go ahead and cut the throttle and warp around here to Minmus escape. The ship is not under acceleration, mind you. I guess it must be the SAS. Get around here to Minmus escape, and perhaps then we can do something about changing the Kerbal orbit. Alright, now get around here to retrograde and slow this orbit down. Come on. Turn, you ugly whale. One thing's for sure. Heavy Crap is definitely well named. Alright. because it's crap and it's extremely heavy and hard to turn. So we'll just, now that we're pretty much lined up, burn this orbit down into one that will actually have a close approach to Kerbin. One that will allow return. Well, we had a chance for a moon encounter. Oh, for crying out loud. Yeah, we've got another Minmus encounter. Alright, let's go ahead and time warp past it. It's a good high periapsis. We shouldn't have any problems. Just go past that and find ourselves back in Kerbin orbit. Alright. This thing turned back to retrograde again. And burn that periapsis down a little more. What's going on here? Are we out of fuel? Yes, this ship is out of fuel. Let's warp it in closer so that we can see things a little better. It looks like these guys might be on a long-term situation here until we can get a rescue mission up to them. Because their periapsis is way too high for atmosphere to do anything about stopping them. Okay, well, I guess we'll deal with that another time. In the meanwhile, back in the VAB, I've been doing a lot of work. Let's see, Lander 2, which is what we were trying to fly last time out. And, well, actually, I had a ship built into that. Lander 2. Yes, here we are. And there was a lot of problem getting this thing into orbit. Never mind anything else. Well, I did some looking around, I did some reading on the forums, and basically the problem is knowing how much delta V there is, knowing how much the thrust to weight ratio is. And I came across a mod that helps a lot with this. And this is another one of these informational mods. The engineering system. Now, this engineering chip, it gives you very useful information, and there's two varieties. One that only works here in the VAB. There's another one that works in flight as well. You just go ahead and mount that on the capsule, and you've got valuable information about the ship. Its mass, both for the whole ship and for an individual stage. How much fuel there is, the thrust, delta V. I'm not sure why that's showing zeros on the delta V, but the important thing here is the thrust to weight ratio, 1.41 for this booster stage. And then this stage up here, the lander stage, has 0.57 on Kerbin, is pretty good for the moon or for Minmus. Oy. Well, I won't be saving that one. But it's very useful. So I did some experimenting, and I came up with the Lander 3. As soon as it loads, which is basically the same thing as the M-Lander 1 with solid boosters. And if I pop this sucker on here and move this over to where I don't mess with the ship when I click on something, you see we've got delta V numbers here, so we know how much delta V each stage has. Throw the thrust for weight ratios. It's much better for stage 7, which is the solid boosters. And that way stage 6 doesn't have near as much work to do. Plenty of delta V. Then I took it one step farther in the design and made the Lander 3B. And I think this one has a real chance of actually reaching the moon and being able to land. It's basically the Lander 3, which is basically it's the Lander 2 with 2 sets of solid boosters. There are 12 solid rocket boosters going off on the launch stage. And I'm going to go ahead and pop this on here. And I'm going to save it that way, because this thing also provides in-flight information. And if we look at our thrust to weight ratios at liftoff, this thing has a 2.61 thrust to weight ratio. This is very good. It is going to practically jump right off the pad, I'm sure. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and hide both of those, and let's get some stability enhancers on here, just because. Turn our symmetry on. And put these in the right stage. I want to double check my staging here to make sure everything's kosher. Alright. Okay, SRBs. Okay. The 12 SRBs are going off first, followed by 6 liquid engines and the central one, so 7 liquid engines will be going off after the SRBs detach, and that will carry the whole thing up into orbit and probably into a moon injection, where at that point the lander with 5 of these LV-909s on it, those will fire, and the outer 4 are half tanks which feed the central tank, and those will be jettisoned after liftoff from the moon or Minmus or wherever we're landing at. And the central tank should have enough delta V to get back to Kerbal. So go ahead and save this and give it a launch and see what we get. I think it's going to work out good.